Hi there, I'm David Batsoffen and I host a travel blog called Travel and Things. And every Saturday during October, I've been chatting to Simon McDonnell, who is an action photographer. And this Saturday is no different. Simon, how are you doing?
All well here, David. Thank you for asking, and good morning to you and to your viewers. It's good to be here. It's a beautiful day here in Cape Town.
As it is always, it's just because you guys have got ice cold water in a mountain, you think you're very special, don't you?
Can you imagine the tourism if the water was warm?
Yeah. And you didn't have the mountain. You'd be like Namaqualand with the sea. Simon, you mentioned last week we're going to be talking motorsport today. I'm looking forward to that. I don't know why. I'm always attracted to motor programs on television. You know, how to rebuild a car, how to make a car from scratch. I don't know why. Because I'll never build a car. I'll never have a garage where there's parts lying around. If I need a wheel changed, I'd take it to the garage. They can change the wheel for me. No, I'm not that bad. I can change wheels. But aside from that, not very much is going on. But motorsport also, it fascinates me because there seems to be, and maybe it's only up the top end of the F1 scale, where people seem to have lost interest almost. It's become a procession. You've got Mr. Hamilton, who's now equaled Michael Schumacher's record of 91 wins, and he says he's going to drive until they have to chop his arms off a steering wheel or something. And it's become a procession. What about where you find yourself photographing? Is it a different setup there? The car's more competitive, the people more competitive?
Well, I hear what you're saying, and I agree. I love the F1. I did love it a lot more when it was more about the drivers and the cars than about the computers and the strategists who plan and get the pit stops all scientifically lined up. They've, I think, removed the human factor too much. So I hear exactly what you're saying, and that's one of the reasons that I love the MotoGP, because on the last lap the lead can change 3 times, and so there's still a lot more of the human factor in there. But when it comes to photographing the action, well, I'm not going to say no to a Formula One, and for many years I used to travel to Sepang to watch that, the Malaysian Grand Prix, only because that was one of the last that we as South Africans could still afford to go to with our currency. But yeah, I do love the MotoGP, and I think for us in South Africa, there's plenty of action, be it at Killarney or at Swartkorps Raceway in Pretoria. The historics, you know, the privateers, the guys that are tinkering in the backyards and they are doing their own work. It takes you back in time to when racing was all about speed and ability rather than computers and technology.
I was taught to drive in Port Elizabeth by a guy who raced on the weekends. He had a Renault 16, I think it was, that he raced. And he taught me how to drive. And it saved my life on 2 separate occasions where I knew how to control a skid to bring the car to a safe stop without killing either myself or anybody else on the road. And I do believe that the testing that they do now should include skid pan testing, because the modern cars are too fast and too furious. And if you lose control of those things, there is invariably only one ending that happens then. Yep. And it's not a nice one.
Yeah, I hear you. And in fact, you mentioned that. I note that that they're even changing the terminology of the advanced driver courses, making them defensive driving courses now, which I think is a good plan. And also a great photographic opportunity. If you have a skid pan close by to you, I know there's one in close to Kyalami, the Land Rover Experience. They've got a skid pan on that premises. Some tremendous photography can be had there too if you want to get some action. Nothing better than a car skidding along and you get the faces of the passengers stuck up against the window.
Fair enough. Enough chatter. I hear people say, "Show us Simon's pictures." That's why we've tuned in.
What, of the people up against the window?
You know,
All right.
share your screen with us,
let's share
Simon.
screen. All right. Okay. Do you see that?
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, so sadly, we talked about F1. I was looking for some of the F1 pictures from Sepang, and I've realized that I've either lost a drive or I haven't backed it up properly, but struggled to find any of the F1. But, you know, some of the best shots are not necessarily the F1 pics. These are local. These are at Swartkops. And what I liked here, and I think it's important to say that it's all very well to get those shots of the cars and the bikes coming past. But again, I love to tell a story, and you can pick up that I left the pit wall in here intentionally. I think it adds to it just to have a bit of the blur in the front of the picture. Often when you're panning, you'll get the blur in the back, but I like this one because it has it in the front as well. And it's not always blistering speed and action. You know, I love this shot. Obviously, one of the historics coming towards us, and it's the same circuit. I put it into black and white, really from the era, making it a little older. But
did he get lost? Where the rest of the competitors?
Well, that's the beauty with the historics, is they're obviously in different classes, but the guy who comes stone last probably won his class. But
Simon, you talk about black and white in that because of the era. What about sepia images? Because sepia seem to evoke all sorts of anger amongst photographers. It's like, why is there even sepia?
I'm kind of one of those people, and I think that it's because at some stage it was overdone. You know, I have the same opinion about HDR. You know, the cameras nowadays, you can hit a button and you're given an HDR image, and it's overdone. You get people that take what would be a beautiful photo, but they've taken it in the HDR, the high dynamic range, and it looks like a painting. And for me, it was overdone. You know, there was some images that looked great, and I thought, wow, that's smart. And then suddenly everyone was doing it, and it just, for me, it's not photography. You know, you're talking more computer technology than anything else. So I normally would say the same about things like the vignetting. It's easy to do nowadays in post. You can add a vignette, you can add anything, but I think it detracts, and there's a place for it. But you know, sepia, it always reminds me of the Rand show when you get dressed up as a Boer general with your rifle, and you get that photo.
Funny you should say that, Simon, because I was working on a blog posting just this morning before we started chatting, and it was a black and white posting, and I wanted to start off the story with going back. We all have drawers full of these old images, and I started off with a sepia picture of the inside of a rondavel, and I sort of looked at it and I went, "No, David, stick with black and white. That sepia is not going to work."
Yeah, but you see, you've been a photographer long enough. You've also been through all the stories.
Oh, of course we have. Of course we have. Somewhere in a folder, I think I've still got sepia prints.
Yeah. I think you'll struggle if you go through all of my photos. You'll struggle to find one that's in sepia. It's not something
I'm going to take this one of yours. I'm
right.
going to put it into sepia. I'm going to leave your watermark on it, and I'm going to send it back to you.
And that's how the fight started.
And that's how the fight started.
Excellent.
All right, moving on, because I brought you back. So let's go forward.
All right.
And the Union Building's in the background, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, Rhodes Memorial.
That is the Union Buildings in the
Yeah.
background. Yeah, no, it's the Union Buildings. This was the ex-fighters. The image itself I'm looking at is not great. It's not even sharp. But I put it in because, again, we're talking about the story. You notice it straight away. It's the Union Buildings. How unusual was it to have turn the gardens into a motorcycle event, and to have these amazingly talented riders from all over the world jumping and doing these somersaults, thrilling the crowds right here with the Union Buildings in the background.
Never going to happen. Never going to happen in the Rose Garden at the White House.
That's it. You know, so it's again telling a story.
Yeah.
That's why I put it in. Yeah. You noticed it straight away. You said, "Is that the Union Building?" Yeah. So again, here I've got into the black and white. This was at an event, drifting. I don't know if you're familiar with the drifting. So these guys, it's not fast, but they throw those back ends around, and there's just smoke pouring out of everywhere. The circuits are full of curves, and they throw these cars around like they're toys. And it does make for some great photography. This one, obviously, a very close crop, just to get that action on the wheel, and that smoke pouring out of there. So I liked it. And color, it kind of worked, but I just thought it worked better in black and white.
Better in black and white, it does indeed. Sponsored by BF Goodrich, no doubt.
Yeah, well, if they don't have sponsors, I think we'll never see them again. The rate that these guys go through tires, it's unbelievable. Okay, so this is the TT, the Isle of Man, last year, and the reason I put this image in is I wanted to show how timing and a split second can make all the difference. So I think I moved slightly, but this picture, I was fairly happy with it. I thought it's quite cool. I've got a panning shot. I've got some of the crowd, and so I liked it until you get a shot like this. Now, I've just moved slightly. I've got a tighter crop, and I've got the starburst off the helmet and off the windscreen, and I've still got the crowd in the background, and that. So just to go back to it, whilst I was happy with that, much happier with this. So just changing things ever so slightly.
Yeah. And obviously not putting yourself in danger, because I don't know, the Isle of Man, these guys go rocketing through very tiny suburban streets, if I'm not mistaken. This is not a racetrack. This is just around the island. And I don't know, Bob Smith and his dog may be wandering across the road for all I know.
You're not wrong. These guys are crazy. They're a very special breed. And at times, his helmet will be 1.5 meters away from a tree or from a building or from a wall, and he's doing 280 kilometers an hour. So yeah, they are a very special breed. This TT, the Tourist Trophy, is famous amongst racing fanatics, and this was a bucket list thing for me to get to the TT. It was awesome. But yeah, I'm not in any danger. I'm probably 10 meters away behind, or I think I was behind a wall or behind a bollard, but yeah, it looks like I'm a lot closer than I really am. I have some behind the scenes shots that you'll see, and you'll get an idea of where we are here. So you get an idea here. I just drew out there so you can see where the danger is. The crowds are kept behind those barriers, and the photographers generally take cover behind something. There's a tug across the road who's in danger of wandering out onto the road. But this is not a particularly high speed area. They've just done a jump. They came over Balla Bridge, which I think I've got. I'll come back to it. There you go. Dave Peterson there coming over Balla Bridge. They do that jump. So it's not high speed, but it's, if you get hit by a bike, even if it's doing 10 Ks an hour, you're going to know.
You're going to know all about it.
Yeah. So that's just to give an idea, really, of what was happening behind the scenes. Here, that shot I took earlier, I was probably standing where the guy on the right is standing, the extreme right. I was probably right there taking those shots. What I did here was just not pan with the bike, obviously. Thought I'd take a picture of the scenery with the bike coming through, so you get an idea of the speed, but you also get an idea of where you are. And was there one more? No, okay. And I did the same here because the Raven is one of the famous landmarks around the circuit. So this was our local. I was camping probably 300-400 meters away from here. So this was a great little pub. What I love about the TT is that in the evening, the guys they just pop in and have a beer with their mates, and they're part of the team. So it's not like the heavily organized F1 and MotoGP where they've got their strict fitness regimens. The guys pop into the pub. They were racing all day. They come in, have a beer, and they'll go racing again tomorrow. So
I see there's also a friendly spa.
Yeah. Thank goodness, because that's where I pretty much bought all my food. Because again, with our exchange rate against the pound, the Raven beers were not cheap. And then finally, just the classic leaning bike shots. There's always two minds with these. Everyone takes them. So the magazines and what have you, they don't always want them because they're so common. But I notice nowadays the guys getting down, they started off with the knee pads. So like this chap here, you've got his knee down on the ground. Nowadays, the leathers have got the same knee pads or the same padding on the elbows. And this week I saw a shot of somebody on the MotoGP circuit who's got his shoulder on the tarmac, on the curb. It's hard to believe that they can get that kind of angle, but these bikes, like the slicks, they're like super glue on those tires.
But it boggles the mind that you can get to that low and then get back up again. Getting down is the easy bit, because then you just let go of the handlebar and you can end up in the crash barrier. But it's to get from almost horizontal back to vertical again.
It's incredible. And for me, that's what makes the bikes that much more action-packed, is that they are all over the show. There's a lot of movement. I mean, a Formula One car going bombing around a circuit is amazing to see. It used to be amazing to hear, but of course that's all changed as well with the new engine designs and turbos and what have you. And it'll change again with the move towards the electric engines. That's the strangest thing, is to see these events where you have the e-bikes and the e-cars, and they're flying around a circuit with no noise. It just blows my mind.
It's almost like watching IPL at the moment, the IPL cricket, which is in Dubai, Dubai, not in India. But the soundtrack, there's not a soul in the stadium, and the soundtrack is from previous IPLs in India. It's the weirdest sensation to watch and to hear. I mean, but then a question about this particular image, Simon. Low angle. How did you shoot this? Were you lying down? Were you just sitting and it was just the right angle? How do you get these shots?
Yeah, you're right. Angle is everything. I mean, a photo like this, but from above or from a platform or from the stadium, wouldn't really. It would be a nice image, but it wouldn't be any different. Whereas here, I believe that I was behind in one of the marshal's boxes, behind some safety. I think they were inflatable barriers, and I would have gone down on one knee. At the races like this, if I'm right next to the circuit, I won't lie down. It takes me too long to get up nowadays. But I'm quite happy to drop onto one knee, and you do get a better angle. And you're quite right. You've got to change your angles. You've got to get low.
Okay.
Yeah, that I believe is everything on the motorsport.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it for motorsport for today. So
Well,
a bit of a shorter
no,
one.
well
I think.
we've got time for a quick Q&A. When it comes to motorsport, as we said, angles are very important. Would you suggest that people who go out to do this sort of photography, if you're going to do it for resale, that you look for corners maybe where it's not inundated with photographers, so that there's not 40 people that are going to end up with the same image as you? Maybe look for something a little different, maybe focus in on the behind the scenes, at the start of the race, maybe on the eyes in the helmets,
Yeah.
if you can see those sort of aspects of racing. Would that be an option, Simon?
Yeah. Very much so, and it's not just in motorsport; it's in anything that you're shooting. If you go, I mean, I hate the idea of media boxes, because all that happens is you get all the media getting the same shot. So I do try to find a different vantage point, or a different style. Get to the pits for motorsport, going to the pits and getting the guys when they take their helmets off, you can see that how much of that race is taken out of them. Get the beforehand, get the mechanics, zoom in on the tools when the guy's busy wrenching something or using a spanner somewhere. They're all different shots, but they're all motorsport. So I hear exactly what you're saying, and I agree with you. I don't like to stand where there's 40 other photographers, because all I'm going to do is just replicate what they're doing. Try and find something, have an idea in your head. At the pits, you'll always find something that's different.
Yeah.
But at the end of the straight, what I can tell people that want to get into this is, if you're shooting with the racing coming, or the action coming towards you, then you want to be on like aperture priority, and we talk about f8 and b there, but as low as you can go on your aperture will give you a much sharper image. Obviously, if you're panning, you want to get a lower shutter speed. So I move on to the TV, the shutter speed, shutter priority, and then you're getting a bit more of the blur in the background. But generally, find somewhere that's going to give you the shot you want without anyone else knowing. That's the secret.
Great stuff. Simon, as always, a wonderful masterclass from you. For people who want to find out more about you and your work, how do they do that?
They could find me on Instagram, click Simon, C-L-I-K Simon. And if failing that, they can look at the website, www.macmedia.co.za. You can find me on Facebook, but that's not just purely photography. Do a lot of the family catch-ups on that platform. But or drop me an email, simon@macmedia.co.za.
Great stuff. Simon McDonnell, thank you once more for a wonderful masterclass. I look forward, well, I'm not really, because next week is our final masterclass, action masterclass with you. And I think everybody's learned a lot so far this month. And we look forward to the last one with a bit of trepidation, because we don't want it to end.
I'll be back. Don't worry.
You and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Thanks once again, Simon. Bye for now. Have a great week.
Thank you, David. All the best.